DJ Scream, heavy in the streets.
We gon' get it, we gon' get it, we gon' get it. We gon' get it, we gon' get it. Get it in blood. Get it in blood. We gon' get it, we gon' get it, we gon' get it. We gon' get it, we gon' get it. Get it in blood. Get it in blood.
Hood rich.
Get it out the mud.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast. And this evening we have some appetizers for you, some pretty nice appetizers for you. And I'm talking UFC 320, Ankalaev versus Pereira 2. So that's Megmod Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira 2. And that will be October 4th, 2025 at T-Mobile Arena in Paradise, Nevada, United States, and that's this Saturday coming up, and that should be your standard 9 Central, 10 Eastern time start time. So no odd start times for if it was an event outside the states or anything, but just a classic pay-per-view event in Las Vegas. But hey, this is a really nice card. This is kind of built up just from name recognition and like star power. Like this is one of the better cards this year, and I mean we're getting to the end of it. This is the tenth month here, and we're finally seeing some cards that feel kind of respectable. It seems like the UFC in the last couple of years has been like a little watered down, trying to feed the fans a card every week, and every single week there's got to be a fight night or a pay-per-view. Well, I think the reason this card kind of build up and is kind of as nice as it is that it's been what, a month and a half since UFC 319, and then kind of in between that time there's been a couple of weekends where there wasn't a card. Well, I think that helped make this a stronger card. You really just don't need all the fight nights, and stealing main events that are on fight nights are great undercards for main for pay-per-view cards, like main events of pay-per-view cards. But they set all those on fire, and having those choices and options to make a card as strong as UFC 320, because that's it's all about the almighty dollar. But still, it's nice to see that they took a little bit of a break and took a weekend off here and there, like when like the NFL season was starting and stuff. They didn't have a card, and college football, and I think that helped build this card up. But let's just kind of go over this card a little bit. The prelims are only my thing. That I wish there would have just been like one or maybe two heavyweight fights on the prelims. Me, I gotta have the beef. I gotta have the big boys out there throwing some leathers and having just the opportunity for a devastating knockout. So you're kind of missing that a little bit on this card, because there's no heavyweight fights on the main card either. But there are two light heavyweight fights on the card, so you still get that devastating knockout potential from those fights. But what could have maybe made the prelims a little stronger is if you threw in maybe one or two heavyweight fights on the card. But there are quite a few good fighters and notable fighters on the prelim, even on just the prelims. Like the second to last fight on the early preliminary card, you got bantamweight Patchy Mix, who he was a highly touted fighter coming over from an organization, and here recently you've seen quite a bit of that from these guys that are superstars at other organizations, and then they come over and have disappointing debuts in the UFC. But you got Patchy Mix like all the way down on the early prelims in a fight, but gotta respect it and condone it that he's wanting to get back in there so soon after having kind of a disappointing showing in his debut in the UFC. So that's definitely a notable name on the prelims. And then you got Macy Chasson versus Jan Santos. Macy Chasson missed weight, so it's a catch weight of 137 137.5. But yeah, you definitely some name recognition there. And then on to the prelims, you have Daniel Santos, Yo Jong Song, Zombie Jr., Chris Gutierrez, Edmund Sabazian versus Andre Muniz, and then the main event, I guess Ataba Gutierrez. I guess he's kind of being built up to be one of your next great like knockout artist or something versus Tristan Vines as your main event for the prelims. But yeah, the prelims got a lot of young up and coming stars and a lot of potential, but just could have been a little bit better. You threw one or two big boys on the prelims, but still definitely has some watch value there. But anyways, let's get on into the main card now. So this is UFC 320 Ankalaev versus Pereira 2. So let's get it. So can I get a menu? And so the first fight on the card is a middleweight bout between Abus Panya Magmadov versus Joe Pfeiffer. So those aren't the biggest or the highestly touted fighters that we've heard that are in the UFC, but these are guys that are definitely starting to make a name for themselves, and being the curtain jerker for the pay-per-view is definitely a step up in competition and step up in career success for these guys. But let's start with Abus Magmadov. Uh, he is, let's see, he is 3-2 in his last five, but he's on a 3-fight winning streak, and he's predominantly a kickboxer, and he has 35 fights in his careers with 28 wins and 6 losses and 1 draw. In the 28 wins, he has 14 wins by knockout, 8 wins by submission. So he has, even with having a great knockout and striking game, kickboxer, he has a dangerous submission game as well. And then 6 wins by decision. And then in the 2 losses, he's been knocked out twice, and he's been submitted twice and decision twice. So I mean, he also can be beaten in any variable of ways too. And but he is on a 3-fight winning streak, and he is 4-2 in his UFC career. So he's only had 6 total fights in the UFC, but a kickboxer predominantly. And then you have Joe Pfeiffer, who's kind of a jiu-jitsu and judo skills, but he's also has a good striking game and has quite a few knockouts as well, and not quite as in his young career. He doesn't have as many fights as Abus Magmadov, but he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, and he is 2-0 in his last 2 fights. And in his UFC career, he is 6-1 in his UFC career, so 7 total UFC fights. And in his 17 matches, he has 14 wins and 3 losses. In the 14 wins, he has 9 wins by knockout, 3 wins by submission, and 2 wins by submission. And then in the 3 losses, he has 1 loss by knockout, 1 submission loss, and 1 loss by decision. So kind of a similar career and kind of a kind of a similar record, but he's just a younger fighter. He just hasn't had as many fights, but he can get the knockouts, can get the submission. But I mean, he also has been knocked out, submitted in decision as well. But this should be a pretty competitive fight. They both kind of do similar things, but I think I can't say I know a ton about either of these fighters. I'm sure I've seen them fight, but definitely not as much knowledge about them as the 4 fights that'll be after them on the main card. But I think I'm going to go with the more veteran fighter, the more timely fighter, the older fighter, I guess, the fighter that has more more fights on his record to this point. But I'm in this middleweight bout between Abus Magmadov versus Joe Pfeiffer. I'm going to go with Abus Magmadov to win this. I'm just going to go pick him to win by decision. All right, so now then on to the second fight on the card. We have a featherweight bout between Josh Emmett versus Youssef Zala. And if you've followed my podcast and you followed the when we've had appetizers on here and UFC predictions and podcasts, you should probably know or understand by now that I'm not the biggest Josh Emmett fan. And have we come to the point where we can maybe say that Josh Emmett is washed? Because I mean, the biggest moment in his career was definitely the devastating knockout that he had against Bryce Mitchell, which was back in December 16th, 2023, and that's surprising to see that he's only had one other fight since then, which was a loss to Leron Murphy, which was April 5th, 2025. So that's a little bit surprising. But talking about Josh Emmett, who's predominantly a knockout artist and a really good striker and boxer, uh, the reason I said is it time or for me to be able to call him washed because two and he's 2-3 in his last fight and he's 1-3 in his last four fights. So looking like you could possibly say that it's pretty. I mean, it's pretty easy to pull out the washed tag or the washed moniker when a fighter is 40 years old. But on top of the fact that you never really cared for them or were a fan of them to begin with, it makes it even easier. It makes it even quicker for you to lean in that direction. But Josh Emmett, who we know is a striker, looking for that one punch knockout, has had 24 fights in his career with 19 wins and 5 losses. In his 19 wins, he has 7 wins by knockout, 2 wins by decision, 10 wins by two wins by submission, 10 wins by decision. So a lot of his fights, basically, if he doesn't get the knockout, there's a good, most likely, if he's winning, it's going to go to decision. And then in his 5 losses, he's been knocked out once, submitted once, and then 3 by decision. So, like I said, just within those last 5 fights, he's had looking a little bumpy, and then turning 40 years old, usually not the best indicator for a fighter's future success. But he's fighting Youssef Zala, who is only 29 years old, and he's got more of like a submission game. You know, he's skilled. He's skilled in kickboxing and MMA and the standard boxing, but he's got a good submission game. He's dangerous on the ground, and he is 5-0 in his last 5 fights, and he's 4-0 in his UFC career, and he is on a 7-fight winning streak. So that's pretty impressive. So the younger, the more currently successful fighter, and a submission game that is quite dangerous in his. Let's see, yeah, four of those 5 most recent wins came by submission. He had a win by triangle choke, rear naked choke, and triangle choke in 4 of his 5 most recent fights. So that's something that's kind of sticks out to me. But in his 23 fights, he has 17 wins, 5 losses, and 1 draw. In the 17 wins, he has 4 wins by knockout, 9 wins by decision. So that's really what we've been highlighting here. And then 4 wins by decision. And then in his 5 losses, he's never been knocked out before. So Josh Emmett, that would really show us something if you were able to find a way to knock Youssef Zala out. But on top of him being a great submission artist, he's also has a good submission defense because he's never been submitted. And then all those 5 losses, they all went to decision. People were able to drag him into deep waters and take him to the horn. But man, we're seeing all those submissions, those recent submissions, and those chokes. And one of those three recent losses by Josh Emmett was a triangle choke, which two of those are what Youssef Zala won by. So in this bout between this featherweight bout between Josh Emmett versus Youssef Zala, I'm going with Youssef Zala to win this, and I think he's gonna choke Josh Emmett out, whether it's head and arm triangle or a triangle choke or a rear naked choke. He's gonna put Josh Emmett to sleep, or Josh Emmett's gonna tap before he goes to sleep. All right, now then, on a fight that could easily be a co-main event or easily a main event of a fight night, and that's what's made this card so great is that the co-main event and the main event you get a title, two title bouts on the card, and then even in the third to last fight on the card, it's basically with an impressive win from either one of these fighters, you could call this a title eliminator fight. Like this could be a fight that you could be like, oh, why is this fight not a 5 rounder too? And just talking when we opened the show, we talked about how cards are so watered down nowadays to where heck, sometimes you're lucky to get one title shot on a pay-per-view, and lucky if the co-main event is a title eliminator fight. So to have that, and then to still like you could if you have some wild crazy fight between Yari Prohaschek and Khalil Roundtree at light heavyweight, hell, you could be at that point where you're feeling uh, feeling kind of spoiled as an MMA fan, knowing you still got two title fights on the card, even after hopefully a wild showing between Yari Prohaschek and Khalil Roundtree. But in this bout, this light heavyweight bout between Yari Prohaschek versus Khalil Roundtree, we have Yari Prohaschek, who is just basically stayed as a light heavyweight contender. Like he's either that's he's either fighting for that or he's in a title bout eliminator. But he hasn't been able to hold the belt, hasn't been able to become like full time. He was just an interim champion for just one fight, and then he lost the belt to Alex Pereira, but then fought back and got his rematch against him, and then got knocked out again. So it'd be interesting to see how this plays out if he actually does beat Khalil Roundtree, because uh, I mean he's going to fight. If Alex Pereira somehow wins, then you're really going to have him have a third fight against Alex Pereira, even though he's already fought him twice and been pretty much dominated and knocked out. So we're really intrigued on how that will all play out. But in his last 5 fights, he's 3-2, and those two losses were just losses to the champ. They're title fights where he lost to Alex Pereira, and he's on a 1 fight winning streak against where he TKO'd Jamal Hill. And that was January 18th, 2025 at UFC 311. So we're already at 320. The cards and the events and the numbered events, they just keep rolling. But in his 37 matches he's had 31 wins, 5 losses, and 1 draw. And in those 31 wins, 27 of them have come by way of knockout, and then 3 wins and 1 decision win. And in the 5 losses, he's been knocked out 4 times and submitted 1 time, and then no losses by decision. So really, that's what's great about Yuri Prohaschek. Whether he wins or loses, you really don't have to worry about a boring fight or a fight not ending in a finish or ending in a stoppage. And that with all those knockouts, you get that from like the kung fu style that Yuri Prohaschek has as a striker and a kickboxer, and has that like point striking that he lands on these guys, and then he follows up with combinations and knocks people out. But he's been knocked out 4 times as well. And if Khalil Roundtree has a chance at beating him. I would say that's probably his best path to beating him. So I imagine that this is going to be a stand-up war. Maybe you could say that this might be kind of similar to Khalil Rountree's fight against Alex Pereira. That was a crazy war that went deep into the fourth round before what the refs just had to stop it because freaking Khalil Rountree's face looked like Texas Chainsaw Massacre with his nose flapping around, barely hanging off of his face. But Khalil Rountree, another great fighter. Like he does have a ground game, but he's such like Muay Thai. He has a Muay Thai striking game as well. So it's similar, Kung Fu versus Muay Thai. It's a good matchup in the striking game. And he is uh, 4-1 in his last 5 fights, and the one was a loss, was the fourth round lost TKO by punches by Alex Pereira, and he's currently on a one fight victory, 1 fight winning streak over Jamal Hill, who he won by decision. And that's kind of funny that Yuri Prohask's last victory was a win over Jamal Hill, but he was, and it's a one. Both of their records are exactly the same. Both their most recent loss was against Alex Pereira by a knockout, and then their most recent win was a win over Jamal Hill. But the only difference was Yari Prohask was able to knock Jamal Hill out, while Khalil Rountree fight went to decision. But in uh, in in Khalil Rountree's 21 fights, he's had 14 wins, 6 losses, and 1 no contest. In the 14 wins, he's had 9 wins by knockout, 0 wins by submission. So he doesn't have really much of a submission game. Like he has a ground game and jujitsu, but you just really never see it because he's such an explosive striker and has such good Muay Thai and just a knockout game that he's looking to impose on his opponents. And then 5 losses by decision, and then in the 6 losses, he's been knocked out 3 times, 1 loss by submission, and 2 wins, and then 1 loss by submission, and then 2 losses by decision. And like I just stated earlier, I feel that this fight's going to go very similar to the Alex Pereira Khalil Rountree Jr. fight. Like it's going to be a war between both of them, or there's moments where some of them are taking damage and look like they're rocked, but they're able to get their bearings, and then the other one gets rocked and having to collect their bearings in the striking game. And I feel that this is going to be a fight that's going to go later into the rounds, the third, fourth round, but someone's getting stopped, TKO'd, and finished. But I think I'm going to go with Yuri Prohask because I feel his kung fu style and how aggressive Khalil Rountree can be in the striking game, where sometimes, like kind of in the fight against Alex Pereira, even though he was getting beat up and his face looked like it was getting chewed up and put through a wood chipper, still was just coming forward. And I think that aggressive style works very well for like a counter striker and such a skilled striker and dangerous striker in Yari Prohask. So in this light heavyweight bout, which could possibly be a light heavyweight title eliminator bout, possibly a number 1 contender bout, Yari Prohask versus Khalil Rountree. I'm going with Yari Prohask to get the knockout in this fight. And like I said, I feel it's probably going to come late in the third round, or maybe even in the fourth or the fifth round. All right, now we made it. We made it to the co-main event, the bantamweight title, the bantamweight title bout between Merab Dashwili, the champion, versus Corey Sandhagen, the challenger. And Merab Dashwili, he's just such a loved character. People love him because of how funny he is, and the stuff he says, and how he sticks to his game, even though at times you could maybe say it's kind of boring because he's one of those Georgian wrestlers, and pretty much I think he's close to like 100 career takedowns in the UFC, and like uh, up until his most recent title defense against Sean O'Malley, like pretty much all he really ever does going back to 2018 was win fights by decision. But the key moniker for that is win fights, is he win fights. So that he was able to get the impressive victory over Sean O'Malley, it being a stoppage, was a north-south choke, was impressive. But that's something that's intriguing. If he wants to fill out Corey Sandhagen to see how dangerous he is, and he wants to just take him down and ground him out like the majority of his fights and in his career, or if he feels the need to try to get a stoppage just for public and social uh, noise, background noise that he's hearing, that like, oh yeah, you're the champion, but you're a boring fighter. I think that kind of fed into what he ended up doing in his last fight against Sean O'Malley. But he's obviously 5-0 in his last 5 fights, and then he's, let's see, count how many of these there are. 13. Yeah, he's on a 13 fight winning streak, but 12 of those 13 fights were, well, no, 11 of those 13 fights were by decision. There was a Marlon Morales, he won by TKO punches back in September 25th, 2021, UFC 266. But in his 24 matches, uh, Merab Dashwili has 20 wins with just 4 losses. In the 20 wins, he has just 3 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission. So a fighter like that, with that Georgian wrestling game and sambo and all that, you think that there maybe be some more stoppages by way of submission, maybe not knockout, but by submission, but just the 2 there. But then he's got the 15 wins by decision. So he's just grinding out, taking people and grinding them out on the ground, and like we said, winning fights, which at the end of the day, that's all that matters. But there's also people out there that don't know how big or how well your star can grow when people think your fights are boring or they're not interested in your fights. But I think it's his personality helps combat that a little bit. And then in his 4 losses, he's never been knocked out. He's only been submitted 1 time, so he's got a good chin. Obviously, he's got a good chin. If you've ever seen the YouTube video of him trying to jump in a frozen lake, and it didn't even phase him, besides a little cut over his eyebrow. And then he has just 1 loss by submission, which shows that he has good submission defense on top of his dominant wrestling, and then 3 losses by decision. So really, he just doesn't lose, hasn't lost since April 21st, 2018 to Ricky Simone by a guillotine choke. And he's facing the challenger, Corey Sandhagen, uh, the Sandman, Corey Sandhagen, who I would say he's more a striker, but he has a dangerous submission game as well. Hasn't pulled off a lot of them, but he just, what was a calf crusher or calf slicer in his last fight against Davison Figueiredo, which ended up causing a TKO knee injury to Davison Figueiredo, which basically set up this title shot for Corey Sandhagen versus Merab Dashwili. But in his last 5 fights, he is 4-1 in his last fights, and he's just on just a 1 fight winning streak. But it was over former champion, not at featherweight, but at let's see, it was at flyweight. So Davison Figueiredo was a former champion But Corey Sandhagen, in his 23 matches, he has 18 wins, 5 losses in the 18 wins. He has 8 wins by knockout, 3 wins by submission, and 7 wins by decision. And then 5 losses, he has 0 losses by knockout. So he has a good chin too, just like Merab Dashwili. Only 1 loss by submission, so he has a good submission defense as well. Even though don't really seems to be a huge concern with most of the opponents for Merab Dashwili having to worry about getting knocked out or submitted. You just have to worry about constant just being controlled and dominated on the ground or just really anywhere Merab Dashwili wants to fight. And then Corey Hagen's also lost 4 by decision. So there's some key factors in here. Could maybe get Corey Sandhagen the win. Like he has a great flying knee. He's knocked out several opponents with that. And then we just saw the vicious calf crusher that destroyed Davison Figueiredo's knee. But Merab Dashwili may be careful. Watch that chin for a guillotine or like heel hooks and things like that. But it just kind of comes down to cardio. Who has the better cardio? And Corey Sandhagen says that he has just as good a cardio as Merab Dashwili. He just says Merab Dashwili is just really good at his what he shows people. He plays it off as if he's tired. He has great body language, and he finds moments to where he looks active, but he's actually taking a rest. But Corey Sandhagen supposedly thinks that his cardio is just as good, but I guess we'll find out on Saturday. But in this bantamweight bout between Merab Dashwili, the champion for the bantamweight title, versus Corey Sandhagen, the challenger, I'm going Merab Dashwili, the champion, to retain the bantamweight title. And I think it's going to be pretty much just wash and repeat with most of Merab Dashwili's bouts, where he just basically just completely uh, dominates his opponent and basically just takes their soul and the life and the energy and the vibe that his opponent has in the fight. Even though they may be so confident coming into this fight, he's going to end up picking him up and slamming him down and holding him down and just treating him like he's a little child, a little boy. So in the bantamweight bout between Merab Dashwili, the champion, versus Corey Sandhagen, I'm picking Merab Dashwili to retain, and I believe that'll be by decision. I don't see him knocking Corey Sandhagen out or submitting him. That's just really not what he does. But that doesn't mean it won't be a complete domination of Corey Sandhagen, because maybe it's just because he hides it a bit better or plays it off better or has better body language when it comes to being tired. But I still think he's a cardio king, a cardio merchant in Merab Dashwili. All right. So now we've really made it. We've really made it to the co-main event of UFC 320, Ankalaev versus Pereira 2, and this is the light heavyweight championship bout between Megmod Ankalaev, the champion, versus Alex Pereira, the challenger. And this is such a fun fight and a series, a saga, whatever you want to call it. Hopefully, we could only be so lucky if this fight actually ends up going into a trilogy and we get Alex Pereira winning this one, and then we're wanting another immediate rematch, because for the first time in a while, you have a championship bout between two guys that really seem like they legitimately dislike one another. You got Megmod Ankalaev talking about how he thinks Alex Pereira is like scared of him and has been running from him while he was champion and didn't want to give him a title fight, and he thought that he could feel like that Alex Pereira was scared of him in the ring during the first fight. But at the same time, you have Alex Pereira saying that like he was only like 45% healthy in the fight, and Alex Pereira talking about how Megmod Ankalaev's mission in the first fight was to take him down and dominate him, which he never did. He never was able to take Alex Pereira down in the first fight, even off of 12 takedown attempts. Alex Pereira uh, was able to defend all of them. And really, just the biggest moment. There was just one moment in the early rounds where Magmar Ankalaev landed a pretty good shot on Alex Pereira, and it looked like he was rocked there for a moment. But then, as the fight kind of went on, like towards like the end of the fourth and into the fifth round, it looked like Alex Pereira was starting to get his sea legs underneath him a little bit, and ended up this card where it looked like Magnog Ankalaev like dominated in your first viewing of this card, which maybe was a little misleading because it was just kind of Alex Pereira kind of moving backwards a lot, and Magmont Ankalaev going for takedowns. And if he couldn't get the takedowns, he was just um, clinching and trying to push Alex Pereira up against the cage. But you really didn't like you got a lot of that, which looks bad and bad to the judges for Alex Pereira. But I mean, Magmont Ankalaev never really, besides the early that was in the first or second round where he not rocked Alex Pereira, there was really not a whole lot more damage caused by that. So maybe where it looked like a fight where Magmont Ankalaev absolutely dominated, maybe was actually closer than a lot of people think if you went back and watched it a second time. But like I said, I love this fight just because these two fighters seem like they actually legitimately dislike each other. You even got Magmont Ankalaev, who Alex Pereira kind of called him like a social media, a troll and a social media warrior. That most of the stuff that he says isn't stuff that he says when they're in person, like one on one, face to face kind of stuff. And you even have Magmont Ankalaev saying, yeah, he wasn't able to take Alex Pereira down the 12 times he attempted, but he also thought that was possibly because he was greased. He was greased up. But here you got another combat sambo Russian elite wrestler and Megmont Ankalaev, the champion, and he's got kind of a weird last five fights. He is 3-0-1-1. And then those two, the 1-1 is a draw to Jan Blachowicz, and then the no contest was an illegal no contest, illegal knee on Johnny Walker. But since then, he's on a 3-fight winning streak. He came back and knocked Johnny Walker out, then Alexander Rakic decision, and then his most recent fight was the impressive, grind out decision victory over the champion Alex Pereira. And in his 10 in his 23 fights, he has 20 wins with just one loss, and that one loss goes all the way back like March 17th, 2018, at a fight night. He lost a submission triangle choke to Paul Craig. So that's been a while, and he is, if you discount, let's see, if you discount the no contest and the draw, he's on like a 10 fight winning streak. But in the 20 wins, he has 20 wins, one loss, and then one draw and one no contest. In his 20 wins, he has 10 wins by knockout, and then kind of surprisingly, seeing how he's combat sambo, submission sambo, a Russian wrestler, you would think he would have more submissions, seeing how that's what he's looking to do is take people down. But obviously, he's got more knockouts from taking people down and having brutal ground and pound, but no submission victories. And then 10 wins by decision, and then in his losses, 0 losses by knockout, just the one submission loss to Paul Craig, and then no decision losses. So Magmont Ankalaev definitely looking like an elite fighter for the holding the light heavyweight bout, and definitely was a fighter that really deserved the opportunity, a very worthy competitor against Alex Pereira. So coming back around now, Alex Pereira is fighting to try to get his belt back. And like I said, he said he wasn't feeling good in the fight before, but that seems to come out every fight after fights. If after a fighter loses, they always have some type of story to tell about why they didn't win, or why they lost, or why they didn't look as good in the fight. But I'm hoping that is true, and I hope if 45 uh, if a 45 victory, for like just what 40 filling just like 45% can get you a 48 to 47 loss against the champion Magmod Ankalaev, then what could even just 80% or 100% filling Alex Pereira do? Hopefully get the knockout, because I'll say there's not too many fighters that like I'm a huge fan of, or a huge hater on, or troll against either. But I would say Alex Pereira is one of the few that I'm a pretty big fan of, and would definitely love to see him as a fan get the belt back. So Alex Pereira is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, and he was on a 5 fight winning streak until he ran into Megmon Ankalaev, which is his most recent fight, which was a loss back March 8th, 2025. He lost the decision, lost unanimously to Magmon Ankalaev, lost the light heavyweight championship. But Alex Pereira has 15 fights with 12 wins, 3 losses. In the 12 wins, he has 10 wins by knockout, 0 wins by submission, and 2 by decision. In the 3 losses, he's been knocked out once, been submitted once, and has 1 loss by decision, which was the loss to Magmon Ankalaev. Me hoping that Alex Pereira was true, and him not being healthy in their first fight and only filling 45% in their first fight. I'm hoping that that's true, and hopefully Alex Pereira is able to carry over still, even if he wasn't feeling good in that fight. Hopefully he's able to carry over his great takedown defense that he had in the first bout, where he was able to stuff 12 takedowns of Magmon Ankalaev. And if going into this fight having a good game plan, maybe trying to uh, tire out Magmon Ankalaev in those first couple rounds, forcing him to try to take him down and not being able to get the takedown. And maybe even if he does get a takedown, if Alex Pereira, as seen in previous fights, gets taken down and is able to get right back up, if he can get to how he kind of had Magmon Ankalaev in like the towards the end of the 4th round and in the 5th round, where it looked like Alex Pereira was able to get off a little bit more. If he was able to get off a little bit more in this fight and have 100% and healthy power behind his shot, hopefully uh, Chama Putain Alexander, Alex Pereira is able to get the knockout in this fight and retain and win his belt back, actually. And then I guess that would set up a trilogy fight, or maybe it depends on if someone's wanting to go on a break, take time off or what, or we'll get a immediate rematch between them, or it'll be Yari Prohaschek or Khalil Roundtree Jr. up next. But in this light heavyweight bout between Magmod Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira, it seems kind of like the unwise choice, just because in the first viewing, like a live viewing of their first bout, it definitely looked like Magmod Ankalaev dominated. But on the judges' scoring card, and really just looking at the type of kind of damage Alex Pereira took in that fight, it was a lot closer than I think a lot of people said. So I'm just hoping Alex Pereira is healthy. So in this light heavyweight bout between Magmod Ankalaev, the champion, versus the challenger Alex Pereira, I'm going with Alex Pereira to win his belt back, to become the new light heavyweight champion. And I think he's gonna knock Magmod Ankalaev out this time. And it's gonna be he's gonna have to work and really work hard in the first 2 or 3 rounds to try to get Magmod Ankalaev kind of off of that whole "I'm trying to take you down. I wasn't able to take you down 12 times in the first fight, but I'm definitely going to try to take you down in this." If he can try to conserve his energy as much as possible and kind of get Magmod Ankalaev to wear himself out in his journey and his the mission that he's on to try to take Alex Pereira out. Hopefully he gets him tired, and then hopefully Alex Pereira retains his power still going into those later rounds, and hopefully he's able to land something, and hopefully we can see him knock Megman Ankalaev out and get his belt back, win his belt back. We'll get the true light heavyweight back, the superstar that Alex Pereira was prior to his loss to Megman Ankalaev. But that's UFC 320. UFC 320. Ankalaev versus Pereira 2, and that's October 4th, 2025. So this Saturday coming up at 9 Eastern, no 9 Central, 10 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll be up around midnight watching that light heavyweight bout. And man, I just hope for another great night. On paper, this looks like a great card. So have to be a lot of things go wrong for it not to be. And nice that even though this card was like a month and a half ago, and then the weigh-ins were just couple like earlier this morning. It was nice that this card for the most part stayed complete, and we're getting a super nice card, and should be a great night of fights. But anyways, I think that's about all I have for you. So can I get a check, please?